$1 million.
What if you were an author who had this great book idea, they took it out to all these different publishers and everyone wanted it, and you got $1 million advance for your book? Wouldn't that be sort of awesome? Well, it turns out I know a few people who have gotten $1 million advances over the year, and I have to tell you, they're killing publishing. They're not good for the authors. Well, I mean, it's good to have $1 million, but they're not really good for an author's career, and they're not good for publishers either. And so this video, I wanted to talk about this sort of wonky, in the weeds business of writing stuff. I almost knocked my degree off the wall. I want to talk about this sort of in the weeds writing stuff that, you might find interesting. Some people asked me, what's the best way to buy a book and how does it work to be an author? So you might learn something about that, but I really want to talk to the industry itself, big publishing, to talk about how we can fix sort of an endemic problem in writing. And the way I see it, publishers act a little bit like venture capital funds. They come in and they give you this enormous amount of money, and it comes with a lot of strings. And I don't know if you've been following big tech in the last 20 years. A lot of firms that are backed by VC actually sort of go out of business, and it's the same for writing. Now, when you hear $1 million advance, that word, it's not exactly what you think. The full term is advance on royalties, which is different than just being given a big chunk of money, because you, as the author, when you accept money from a publisher, have to earn back that advance through your book sales. And the publisher gives you a certain percentage of every book sale based on the cover price that you earn out to that advance. So, a very typical publishing contract looks like this. On hardcover sales, a author gets 12.5%, a paperback like 7.5% on paperbacks, ebooks about 25%, and audiobooks are sort of all over the place, between 10 and 50% on audiobooks. What it comes out to on aggregate is between $1 and $4 of every book sale through a mainstream publisher goes to the author to pay off that advance. Now, if you want to think about what that means mathematically, let's say you got a $100,000 advance. Roughly speaking, at $3 a book, this ballpark, you need to sell about 33,000 copies to earn out a $100,000 advance. Ramp that up to $1 million, and that's 330,000 books need to be sold, give or take, in order to earn out the advance. And when I say earn out, that means the writer gets a check, right? So until you've sold your 330,000 copies, you get zero more money as an author. That's it. You're done. You got your advance, and that was it. And you're only earning out at that, honestly, relatively small rate. 12.5% is not a big proportion of the work that you spent years on creating. And the other thing that you should know about advances in general is that you're not paid out immediately. Usually when you pitch a book, you've been gestating on this idea for years. Usually it gets to the proposal stage. They love your idea, and you go through all this contract negotiation stuff, and they give you usually about a third of that advance up front. And then you get another third when you deliver the finished manuscript to the publisher, and another third when it comes out and is actually published in the world. Sometimes those percentages get mixed up in different ways, but that's sort of a rough average, which means if you got $1 million, you got $300,000 up front, but then minus the agent's commission, which is about 15%. So whatever that comes out to, like, $275,000, or my math isn't very good, but it's a lot. And then you get those tranches as they go, which, honestly, that sounds not bad. But Now imagine you have this book that you've been working on for a while. It comes out and it drops into the world, and then you realize as the author that you are not likely going to sell 333,000 copies, right? That number is astronomically large. Like to actually move 300,000 books, like people are going to spend like $30 per book out there for your book, and it's just like, it's rare. I mean, I'm not J.K. Rowling, and in the industry standard is that of all books at all levels of advances, only about 10% of books actually earn out to the point where you get back royalties. And yet, the way that we sell books in the mainstream markets is the logic among literary agents is that you should go for the most money possible from the publisher. Like everyone should bid to the highest amount so that you get the absolute most amount of money, and then usually that's it. Like usually that's the only sort of like tranche you'll get, because you're probably not going to earn out. 9 out of 10 of you guys are not going to earn out. And this is actually like an enormous problem if you think about a book as a business, because selling a book doesn't only happen in like that first month when it comes out. I mean, the first week is very important, right? Because that's usually where you have the chance of getting on the New York Times bestseller list and these sorts of things. But if you don't think you're going to earn out, you don't think you're ever going to get another check again, why are you going to spend all of your time and effort as an author publicizing the book? I mean, internal publicity at publishing houses is a thing, but they're not nearly as good or as driven as an individual author. I mean, a publisher will put out 12, 20 books a month, and your book is just a tranche of what they're actually interested in. They have this enormous backlist of books. There's just not enough bandwidth within the publishing houses to give the full publicity run to you all the time. It ultimately comes back on the author. And if you're not going to earn out that advance, why the hell are you going to be sending out dozens and dozens of pitches and interview requests and doing podcasts, unless it's just to make your ego feel better? Like, oh, I have a book that any people have read, and you're actually working for no incentive. So the people I know who've gotten $1 million advances, those books like very, very frequently fail. I mean, unless they're Stephen King and they're likely going to earn like $40 million on the books. But if you're just like a person like me, who incidentally has never gotten $1 million advance, but if you're a person sort of in my group of authors, you know that you go out there and that the book is going to flop, and that's sort of it. And I think that's a problem. I think that's like sort of the antithesis of the reason why we become writers in the first place. Because I want a book to, like, if I get paid the exact same amount for selling one book as I do for selling 333,000 books, and I was actually motivated only by money, I wouldn't do any publicity. I wouldn't push the book at all. I would just sort of like walk off into the sunset and be like, all right, publishers, hi, it's up to you. Now, there's another model out there called self-publishing, which maybe you've heard of. And, you know, that sort of breaks down like this. You don't have a publisher. You just, all of the expenses are on you. You've got your editing, your book layout, all the publicity, like everything is on you. But you earn, you know, comparatively much higher royalties. I was doing some math earlier today, and it comes out to about $7 an ebook is what you earn as an author, about $6 per paperback if you're pricing it at sort of a reasonable price point, and approximately $4.50 for every audiobook. And these are generalizations based on a number of factors that I'm just simplifying. Those prices are much higher than you would get from traditional publishing, which is like between $1 and $3 per book, you know, and it really gives the incentive for the person who's self-publishing to go out there and just crush it on the marketing. But there's also a lot of risk for the author, right? The author has to worry, you know, it takes maybe 5 years to write the book. They're not making anything of it, and it's quite dangerous. And a lot of self-published authors, especially in the nonfiction space, there are not a lot of like really hardcore investigative journalists out there doing self-publishing. I mean, I do a little bit, but this one is self-published. but it's hard, it's risky, it's like there's no guarantee you're going to make anything. Which is why I wanted to suggest that there's another model out there that publishers should think about and authors should negotiate for, and I think that can change everything. And I'm going to use an example from my own background with my best-selling book, the one, if you know me, it's probably this one that you know me for, but I've done a lot of other things, but it's this book. It's called What Doesn't Kill Us. And it's about this guy named Wim Hof and ice bathing, and it doesn't really matter what it's about. Now, when I sold that book, I got, check this out, I got $130,000 advance, which, I mean, that was in 2015 I did that, and that's, I mean, $130,000 is good, but remember this comes in tranches, so I got like 1/3 of that, I think, up front. No, I got 50% up front, so I got like 70 grand in 2015, and then the tranches came out in percentages after that. It has sold 180,000 copies internationally. And the way the rights packages work, this is actually sort of important. I only gave the publisher, which was named Rodale at the time, they got only North American rights, which means like in America, and Canada, more or less. And I got to keep the audiobook. And I had negotiated for the audiobook, and they didn't think the audiobooks were all that important, which was great. And that sort of one movement where I owned the audiobook changed everything. And I'm going to argue made the book a New York Times bestseller. Because when the book came out, for a number of reasons, we could blame a presidential election. Trump had just been elected, and all the news was about Trump coming into office. I came out in January of that year, and I didn't get a lot of press initially, like in that first few weeks. It was a little dire. But because I owned the audiobook, every time I went out to, get on a radio station, get on a podcast, get something out into the media, some people read that, and some people bought the hard copy, some people bought the ebook, some people bought the audiobook. Because I owned the audiobook, I self-produced it, narrated it myself, all of that stuff, I got $4.50 for every audiobook I sold, which motivated me to go out there and push the book hard, to keep on pushing it. And I guess 2 or 3 months after it came out, I hit the New York Times bestseller list. Everything was hunky-dory. It was awesome. Now, all told, when we add up all of the money that I have gotten on What Doesn't Kill Us, it comes out to about $400,000, which, I mean, that's an awesome number. But also keep in mind that I've been working on like that book has, from when I started working on it to today, that's been 8 years. So it only comes out to about $50,000 a year that I've actually made on that book, and that does not include the 15% agent commissions that get involved. Now, I mean, hell, $50,000 is not a bad salary. And I have other ways of making money because I've got other books. Don't worry about me. I'm not complaining. But I want to sort of indicate that if I'd gotten $1 million advance, even after working my ass off, I would not have ever earned that out. And so that ownership that I had as an author really, really helped the sales of the book from, I hope, Rodale's perspective, but also my perspective as well. And what I want to suggest is that if publishers could think a little bit more creatively about how they work so that they don't take give you just a lump of money and then forget about cutting you into the profits for like ever, that maybe you could motivate authors so that first week of sales is not the only thing that matters. And authors don't have to just jump from advance to advance to advance, because that's what happens. You do a book, you get all of your money up front, you say, great, I'll never earn more money on this book again, and then you have to go pitch another book for another big advance that could never be earned out, and then you sort of are playing hopscotch for your whole career. Meanwhile, that major publisher does not has like a whole bunch of books that are not earning as much money as they could. They have all these books that are sort of just dropped, both by their internal publicity and marketing and distribution people, and by the very people who have invested years of their life in creating it, who now just don't care how that book does. I think that, if a publisher was able to mitigate the risk of writing by giving a smaller but substantial enough advance so that you can survive to write the book, that 1 to 3 year period it takes to actually physically research and write a book, then immediately cut the author in on sales so that this whole idea of earning out isn't even part of the conversation, but you're making money every single time, then probably publishers could both give less money to authors and motivate them in general to keep on pushing. I think that this is really nice. And also in success, if you're getting a much higher royalty, because I don't think 12% is fair, I think that if you're getting a much bigger cut of the profits, maybe a 50-50 split between the author and the publisher, you could have like these writers who really, really just want to be gung-ho, because otherwise what's going to happen, and this is a prophecy, is that the more successful authors, the people who do have that hustle, they're all going to go to self-publishing models, right? If you're getting $7, $6, or $4 per book, and you know that you got some hustle and you can get those books out, then why on earth would you take an offer that only gets you $1 to $3 to maybe $4 per book? Like, if you feel comfortable enough in your economic situation that you can push it, why wouldn't you go the route of making more money? So this is my prophecy for what will happen is if publishers do not create more revenue fair models, we're going to see this giant shift, which I guess we're already seeing towards self-publishing as it gets more respectable, as more people do it. These big publishers are going to sort of start dying. They're only going to have these big best-selling books that actually do well, and then the rest is going to drift away. All right, so that is my description of the publishing industry. If you want to go more into the weeds, because I can get really, really, really into the weeds with this stuff, I have this video course on my channel. It's free. It's called The Fine Print, where I talk about all of the crazy things that happen in the publishing industry and how authors can try to navigate it for their careers. And it's probably just good business advice for anyone in a creative field. So check it out, The Fine Print. I'm going to put a link somewhere. It'll be cool. All right. Really appreciate you guys watching this, and, rate, comment, do all that stuff that YouTube people demand you do so that more people can watch this stuff. Bye.